Welcome to the deep dive. This time, you've given us a stack of sources all about startups and a new way of thinking about building a successful business. We're going to deep dive into Steve Blank's customer development model. Think of it like a roadmap for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it really challenges the traditional build it and they will come approach, which, as Blank argues, just doesn't work for startups.
Right. It's like setting off on a journey without a map. So what's the problem with the traditional product development model?
The product development model gets so fixated on the product that it forgets the most important thing, the customer. Instead of obsessing over deadlines and engineering milestones, we should be focusing on, understanding what the customer truly needs and building a market that is sustainable.
And you know what's fascinating? Blank uses Webvan as a prime example of this. They had massive funding, followed the traditional model to a T, and still failed.
Webvan is a classic cautionary tale. They pumped millions into building this huge distribution center based on the assumption that thousands of orders would just come pouring in each day. But the reality was customer orders were nowhere near their projections. This is what Blank calls premature scaling, and it's one of the major flaws of the product-centric approach.
So they built this amazing online grocery delivery service, but they didn't stop to ask if anyone actually wanted it or was ready to use it. That's a pretty expensive mistake.
Exactly. Their focus on hitting that product launch date meant they completely skipped the crucial step of customer discovery, which, by the way, is the cornerstone of Blank's customer development model.
Okay, all right. Let's unpack this customer development model. What are we talking about here?
It's a 4-step process: customer discovery, customer validation, customer creation, and company building. The interesting thing is it's an iterative process. Going backward is totally normal as you're learning and adapting your approach.
So unlike that rigid, linear, product-focused model, this one embraces the fact that startups are all about uncertainty and adapting to the market.
Exactly. It's admitting that you don't have all the answers up front and being open to discovery. And another critical aspect Blank emphasizes is the importance of market type.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these market types.
Well, there are 4. New product in an existing market, new product in a new market, resegmented market, and a clone market. Knowing which one your startup falls into is absolutely essential because it impacts everything, from your positioning to your financing to your entire sales and marketing strategy.
So if you're launching, say, a new social media app, you'd be in an existing market, right? People already get the concept of social media.
Right, but imagine launching the first ever personal computer back in the 70s. You'd be facing a whole new market that doesn't even understand the problem you're solving.
Yeah.
That's the situation Donna Dubinsky and her team were in when they launched Palm, the first successful PDA.
That's a great point. They couldn't just focus on features. They had to explain to everyone why a PDA was even useful in the first place. Then later, when they launched Handspring, a Palm competitor, they were in an existing market and could focus on what made their product stand out.
That's the difference. Knowing your market type is like having the right map for your startup journey.
So let's zoom in on customer discovery, the first step. What does getting out of the building really look like?
It's all about talking to potential customers. The goal isn't to sell them on your product just yet, but to really understand their needs, the problems they face, and how they're currently dealing with those problems. Are they using workarounds? Are they even aware that a better solution could exist?
It's about gathering intel and seeing if those initial hypotheses about the market hold up.
Exactly. Blank suggests forming a customer development team: founders, engineers, anyone who can help understand the customer.
And this team starts with a problem hypothesis, right?
That's right. It's basically saying, we think this is the problem, this is who has it, and this is how much they might pay to have it solved. Then you develop a customer profile, identifying the different types of customers you might encounter, like end users or people who influence purchasing decisions.
And then comes the part where you test those assumptions by actually talking to customers. I remember Blank stresses active listening. No pitching your product at this point.
The goal is to understand the customer's world, not to sell them on yours, at least not yet. Through these conversations, you'll start to pinpoint your early evangelists.
Early evangelists? That sounds interesting. Tell me more.
They're your visionary customers, the ones who are willing to try an early, unproven product because they see its potential. They're the ones who will give you invaluable feedback, help refine your product, and become your most vocal advocates. They're the people who will stand in line for the latest iPhone, even though it's still buggy.
So how do you find these early evangelists? They sound like hidden gems.
It starts with your target customer profile. You're looking for people who are passionate about solving the problem you're addressing. They should be open to trying new things and have the means to invest in your solution. They might be hanging out at industry events, online communities, or even among your existing network.
So it's about connecting with the right people, building relationships, and getting them excited about your vision.
Exactly. And once you've identified those early evangelists, you move into the next phase of customer development, customer validation.
Let's talk about that. This is where you actually try to sell, right? Things are getting real.
You got it. Customer validation is all about testing your assumptions through actual sales. The goal is to build a repeatable sales roadmap, a proven process for turning potential customers into paying customers.
So you're taking all those insights from customer discovery and putting them to the test.
Exactly. This involves clearly articulating your value proposition, developing sales materials, and creating a preliminary sales roadmap. And, it's also about assembling your sales team, perhaps bringing in a seasoned closer who can seal those early deals.
And Blank is very clear that these early sales efforts should be aimed at those early evangelists, not the mainstream market, right?
Right. Remember, those early evangelists are the ones who believe in your product's potential even when it's still rough around the edges. They're your ideal test subjects.
It makes sense to validate your product and business model with the people who are most likely to understand and embrace it.
You got it. And once you've validated your assumptions with these early adopters, you're ready for the next phase, customer creation.
So we've discovered our customers, we've validated our product. Now it's time to create some buzz, right? Get the word out.
You nailed it. Customer creation is all about building awareness, generating demand, and positioning your company and product for success.
So this is where the more traditional marketing activities come in.
Yes, but Blank emphasizes the importance of tailoring your strategy to your specific market type. Remember that map analogy?
It's all coming together. You have to know where you are to plan your route.
Exactly. If you're in a crowded market, you might focus on what makes your product stand out from the competition. But in a brand new market, you need to educate people on the problem itself and why your product is the answer.
So it's about crafting the right message for the right audience at the right time.
Absolutely. This is also the time to start building relationships with industry analysts and influencers, the people who can help you amplify your message.
So we're talking about crafting a compelling story, building a messaging strategy, and leveraging those influencers and media to get the word out. And all of this is guided by your market type.
Precisely. And once you've successfully launched your product and company, you transition to the final phase, company building.
This is where you shift from scrappy startup to a company focused on sustainable growth, right?
Right. Company building is about transitioning from a customer development team to fully functional departments. It's about building a mission-driven organization where employees are empowered and mature. It's about structure without sacrificing that startup spirit.
So you're evolving, but holding on to what made you successful in the first place.
That's the key. You need to preserve the agility of a startup while putting in place the systems and processes that will allow you to scale.
And Blank argues that this transition is critical. It can make or break a company.
He uses a fictional company called Betasheet to illustrate this point. They experienced rapid growth, but couldn't sustain it because they failed to adapt their structure and culture. They became too bureaucratic too quickly.
So how do you successfully navigate this transition from customer development to company building? What are the keys?
It all starts with building fast response departments. That means decentralizing decision-making, empowering employees to take initiative, and creating a culture of trust and transparency.
So you're trying to maintain that fast-paced decision-making that's essential for startups, even as you're becoming more structured.
Exactly. And that requires clear communication of the company's mission and vision, empowering employees to make decisions, and creating a culture where experimentation and learning are encouraged.
And of course, this transition will look different depending on your market type, right?
Yeah, you always have to keep that in mind. A company launching a brand new product will face different challenges than a company competing in a well-established market.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach. It's about understanding your market type, your company's strengths and weaknesses, and the specific challenges you face, and then adapting your organizational structure and management approach accordingly.
That's it. Blank provides a framework for thinking about these challenges and navigating that transition from customer development to company building, regardless of your market type.
This is dense stuff, but it's so insightful. It's a whole new way of thinking about building a successful business.
And you know what's really interesting? Even though Blank focuses on tech startups, these principles can be applied to any business, regardless of the industry.
That's a great point. It's about understanding your customers, validating your assumptions, and building something that truly meets their needs. That's relevant across the board.
Absolutely.
All right, let's dive into a specific example that Blank uses to illustrate the importance of this approach. He tells the story of a company called Photos Toyu. What happened there, and what can we learn from their experience?
Photos Toyu is a fascinating case study because it demonstrates how misunderstanding your market type can lead to a failed launch. The company offered online photo printing services, which seems like a great idea given the rise of digital cameras, right?
It does. What went wrong?
Their fatal flaw was treating a new market as if it were an existing one. They invested heavily in branding and marketing, assuming everyone understood the value of online photo printing.
So they were trying to generate demand before the market even understood the problem they were solving.
Exactly. They thought that people would flock to their service because digital cameras were becoming popular, but they missed a crucial point. Most people were still using film cameras and weren't ready to make the jump to digital, let alone online photo printing.
What happened next?
Their marketing campaigns flopped. They spent a fortune trying to reach a market that wasn't there. They skipped customer discovery and customer validation, and it cost them dearly.
This sounds like another example of premature scaling, trying to grow before they'd laid the groundwork.
Precisely. They scaled their marketing before validating their assumptions about the market. Had they followed the customer development model, they would have realized that their focus should have been on educating customers, not on grabbing market share prematurely.
So what could they have done differently?
They could have started by identifying their early evangelists, those digital camera enthusiasts who were already eager to print their photos online. They could have focused on building relationships with these early adopters, gathering feedback, and refining their product and message.
They could have used that early feedback to validate their assumptions and create a more targeted and effective marketing strategy.
Exactly. And they could have leveraged those early evangelists as advocates, spreading the word to other potential customers.
This story underscores how even great ideas can fail if you don't understand your market and don't adopt a customer-centric approach.
It's a cautionary tale that really highlights the value of Blank's customer development model.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here. Let's take a step back and summarize the key takeaways. What's the most important thing you want our listener to remember?
The biggest takeaway is that building a successful startup is a journey, not a sprint. And just like any journey, having the right map can make all the difference.
And that map, in this case, is the customer development model.
Right. And one of its core principles is shifting your focus from solely building a product to building a customer base. It's about embracing discovery and being willing to adapt based on what you learn, not clinging to assumptions.
It's about being customer-centric, truly understanding your market, and validating your assumptions before making big decisions about scaling.
Absolutely.
So before you even think about writing that business plan, ask yourself, who are my customers? What problems am I solving for them? And how can I build a business that truly addresses their needs?
Keeping those questions in mind will set you up for a much more successful journey.
This has been a fantastic start to our deep dive. We've laid the groundwork for understanding the customer development model and its core principles. But there's so much more to explore. We'll pick back up with the rest of this deep dive in part 2.
It's fascinating to see how the customer development model has impacted the business world since Blank first introduced it. It's become a cornerstone of the lean startup movement, which has really changed how entrepreneurs approach building businesses.
It has. The lean startup methodology is all about rapid experimentation, iterative product development, and learning as you go. That aligns perfectly with Blank's ideas.
They go hand in hand. And what's amazing is that it's not just startups embracing these principles. Larger, established companies are also adopting lean startup methodologies to become more innovative, more customer-focused, and more responsive to market shifts.
It's like that saying, adapt or die. Yeah, in today's rapidly changing business environment, companies need to be nimble and in tune with their customers' needs.
Exactly. And the customer development model provides that framework for staying ahead of the curve.
Let's revisit the 4 steps for a moment. Customer discovery, Customer validation, customer creation, and company building blank emphasizes that it's not always a linear process, right?
That's right. It's not a straightforward one-way path. You might start with customer discovery, move to customer validation, but then realize you need to circle back to customer discovery to refine your understanding of the market or discover new customer segments.
So it's about being flexible and adapting to what you learn.
Exactly. That iterative approach is particularly crucial in those new, uncharted markets where there's a lot of uncertainty. You have to constantly test your assumptions and be ready to adjust your course.
Speaking of adjusting course, Blank talks about the concept of a pivot, which is basically a strategic change based on what you've learned. What would a pivot look like in real life?
Let's say you're developing a mobile app for sharing photos, but through customer discovery, you realize your target users are more interested in sharing short videos. That's a sign you might need to pivot from a photo sharing app to a video sharing app.
So a pivot isn't a complete overhaul, but a shift in direction based on what your customers are telling you.
Exactly. And that ability to pivot is essential for startups. It allows you to respond to changing market conditions and avoid wasting time on an idea that isn't resonating.
It's about being willing to let go of your initial assumptions, maybe even your original product idea if the market demands it.
Absolutely. It's all about flexibility, adaptability, and being laser-focused on the customer.
We've discussed customer discovery and validation, but what are some specific techniques entrepreneurs can use to gather that valuable customer feedback?
Well, there are quite a few approaches, but some of the most common include customer interviews, surveys, focus groups, A/B testing, and building a minimum viable product.
Let's break those down. What does each of those entail?
Customer interviews are fundamental. You sit down with potential customers, ask open-ended questions, and really listen to their responses. It's about understanding their experiences, their frustrations, their needs.
And surveys can be helpful too, right?
Absolutely. Surveys are great for gathering quantitative data from a larger pool of people. They can help you validate your assumptions about the market size, customer demographics, and pricing sensitivities.
And what about focus groups?
Focus groups bring a small group of people together to discuss a specific topic. It's a more interactive setting for gathering feedback, observing group dynamics, and exploring different perspectives.
And then there's A/B testing, which I know is popular with online businesses.
Yeah. Right. A/B testing involves testing different versions of your product or website to see which one performs better. For example, you might test 2 different headlines to see which one gets more clicks.
So it's about experimenting and seeing what resonates with your target audience.
Exactly. And then we have the minimum viable product, or MVP. This is a core concept in the lean startup methodology.
I've heard of that. Explain it for our listener.
An MVP is a stripped-down version of your product with just enough features to attract early adopters and validate your key assumptions. The idea is to get it out there quickly, gather feedback from real users, and iterate based on that feedback.
That's like a test run, right?
Exactly. And the beauty of it is that you can avoid over-investing in a product before you know for sure if it's something people want.
It sounds like there's a whole toolkit available for gathering customer feedback. The key is choosing the right tools for the job, depending on your specific needs and stage of development.
That's it. And it's important to remember that gathering customer feedback isn't a one-time event. It's an ongoing process. You should always be listening to your customers, adapting to their needs, and iterating on your product.
That's what sets successful companies apart. It's not just about having a great product. It's about building a business that is truly customer-centric and constantly evolving.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned earlier that the customer development model is like a map for the startup journey. But even with a map, you need to know how to read it, right?
That's a great point. There are still challenges and obstacles that entrepreneurs need to navigate. What are some of the common pitfalls, even when you're trying to follow this framework?
One common pitfall is failing to truly listen to your customers. It's easy to get so attached to your own vision that you filter out feedback that doesn't align with it.
You could become blinded by your own passion, right?
Exactly. Another pitfall is getting stuck in that customer discovery phase. You can end up talking to customers forever without ever actually building or selling your product.
Analysis paralysis.
Yes. You need to find that balance between learning and taking action. You need to move from discovery to validation. And then there's the danger of scaling too quickly.
We saw that with Webvan, right? Premature scaling can be deadly.
Exactly. It's tempting to ramp up spending, hire a big team, and go after market share before you've truly validated your business model. But that can backfire spectacularly.
So it's about being strategic with your resources, validating your assumptions, and scaling gradually as you gain traction. Don't need to get ahead of yourself.
Exactly. And finally, a pitfall that can derail any business is failing to build a strong team. A great idea is nothing without a team of talented and passionate people who can execute on it.
So it's about finding the right people, empowering them to make decisions, and fostering a culture of collaboration and innovation.
Absolutely. It's about sharing a vision, a deep understanding of the company's mission, and a commitment to serving the customer.
These are such important points. But even when entrepreneurs get all of this right, they follow the model, build a great team, avoid those pitfalls, there's still no guarantee of success, right?
That's true. Building a business is inherently risky. There are always factors outside of your control. But the customer development model and the lean startup methodology as a whole can significantly increase your chances of success by minimizing risk, maximizing learning, and allowing you to adapt quickly.
It's not a foolproof formula, but it's a powerful framework.
Exactly. And it's a framework that keeps evolving as entrepreneurs share their experiences and learn from each other. It's a living, breathing methodology that adapts to the changing business landscape.
Before we move on to part 3 of this deep dive, is there anything else you want to emphasize for our listener?
Yes, I think it's crucial to remember that while the customer development model provides this fantastic framework, it's not a replacement for hard work, passion, and belief in your vision.
You need that entrepreneurial spirit, that drive to make it happen, the willingness to take risks and push through challenges.
Exactly. The customer development model can help you channel that energy and vision more effectively, but it's not a substitute for those essential qualities.
It's a tool, not a magic wand. This has been an incredibly insightful exploration of the customer development model and its implications for entrepreneurs. But we're not finished yet. There's more to uncover in part 3. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring, Steve Blank's customer development model and how it's changed the game for entrepreneurs. And one of the core principles is this idea of getting out of the building, which really resonates with me.
Yeah, it's so crucial. You simply can't build a successful business by just, sitting in your office making assumptions about your customers.
You have to get out there and talk to them.
Right.
Understand their needs, their problems, and how they're currently addressing those issues.
Exactly. And these conversations are vital not only for developing your product, but also for refining your marketing and sales strategies.
What you think is a killer marketing message might completely miss the mark with your target audience.
Precisely. That's why it's so important to test your assumptions, gather feedback, and be willing to pivot based on what you learn.
Now, we've talked a lot about the importance of those early evangelists, those visionary customers who are willing to take a chance on your product in its early stages. But how do you know when you found the right ones? What are the signs?
That's a great question. One key sign is that they are deeply passionate about the problem you're trying to solve. It's not just casual interest. They're actively seeking a solution and are genuinely excited about your product's potential.
They're not just being polite, they're truly engaged and see the value in what you're building.
Exactly. Another sign is that they're generous with their time and insights. They're happy to, answer your questions, provide feedback, and even connect you with other potential customers.
They're almost like an extension of your team.
In a way, yes. They're invested in your success because they believe in your vision. And another sure sign is that they're willing to pay for your product, even in its early stages.
That's the ultimate validation, isn't it? Putting their money where their mouth is.
Absolutely. Early evangelists understand that early-stage products come with risks, but they're willing to invest because they see the potential payoff.
So finding the right early evangelists is crucial for validating your business model and gaining traction.
It's absolutely essential. And once you've found them, it's so important to nurture those relationships, continue to seek their feedback, and leverage their enthusiasm to spread the word.
It's about building a community around your product, a community of passionate advocates.
Exactly.
We talked earlier about the challenges of transitioning from that early customer development phase to company building.
Yeah.
It's a time of significant change where you need to balance maintaining that startup agility while building the systems and processes necessary for scaling. Blank stresses that this transition can make or break a company. What are some things leaders need to do to make sure that transition goes smoothly?
Clear and frequent communication with your team is paramount. As the company grows and evolves, it's crucial to keep everyone aligned around the company's mission, vision, and values.
It's about transparency and making sure everyone understands what's happening, why it's happening, and what the ultimate goal is.
Precisely. And it's also about empowering your team to make decisions. As the company grows, it becomes impossible for the founders or the CEO to be involved in every decision.
You have to delegate. And trust your team to make the right calls.
Exactly. And that means giving them the information they need, the authority to make decisions, and the support to succeed. It also means fostering a culture that embraces experimentation and learning.
Where mistakes are seen as opportunities for growth, not as failures.
Yes. In a fast-growing company, mistakes are inevitable. It's about creating an environment where people feel safe taking risks, trying new things, and learning from their experiences.
And it's also important to celebrate those successes, both big and small, to maintain momentum and keep everyone motivated.
Absolutely. Recognizing achievements, no matter how small, can go a long way in building a positive and productive company culture.
And amidst all this growth and change, never lose sight of the customer.
That's the foundation of the customer development model. It's easy to get caught up in internal processes, metrics, and goals as the company expands, but it's vital to remember that the customer is at the heart of everything.
Stay customer-centric, even as you're scaling and growing.
Exactly. That means constantly gathering feedback, adapting to their changing needs, and iterating on your product and your business model.
Because the market never stops evolving, and neither should your company.
That's a great way to put it.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've discussed the customer development model, the lean startup methodology, the importance of gathering customer feedback, and the key things leaders can do to navigate the transition from customer development to company building. And we've consistently emphasized the need to stay customer-centric, be flexible, and remember that building a successful business is a journey, not a race.
Yeah, it's a journey with its fair share of challenges, obstacles, and unknowns. But it's also incredibly rewarding, both personally and professionally. For those who embrace the customer development model, truly listen to their customers, and adapt along the way, the rewards can be truly extraordinary.
I love that. So before we wrap up, let's give our listener a concise 10-point summary of the key takeaways from this deep dive, a little cheat sheet, if you will.
I like that idea.
Okay, number one, the traditional product development model, with its focus on the product itself, often misses the most important element in customer.
Number two, the customer development model offers a more customer-centric approach, emphasizing discovery, validation, creation, and company building.
Number three, understanding your market type is crucial. Are you entering a new market, an existing market, or a resegmented market? Your market type will shape your entire strategy.
Number four, customer discovery is all about getting out of the building and talking to potential customers to understand their needs and problems.
Number five, customer validation involves testing your assumptions by trying to sell your product to early evangelists, those visionary customers who are willing to take a risk on your product.
Number six, customer creation focuses on developing a marketing and communication strategy that resonates with your target audience and positions your company and product effectively.
Number seven, company building is about transitioning from a customer development team to functional departments while maintaining a fast response, mission-centric culture.
Number eight, early evangelists are your most important customers as they provide valuable feedback and help validate your business model.
Number nine, the chasm is the gap between selling to early evangelists and reaching that mainstream market. Your market type will determine how to bridge that gap.
And number 10, the PhotoStow UK study is a real-world example of how misunderstanding your market type can lead to a failed launch, demonstrating the importance of customer development.
Wow, that was a deep dive indeed. So much valuable information packed into this episode.
It was a pleasure exploring these concepts with you.
A huge thank you to our listener for providing us with such thought-provoking source material. We hope you found this exploration of Steve Blank's customer development model valuable.
Keep those 10 key points in mind as you embark on your own entrepreneurial journeys.
And remember, building a successful business is a marathon, not a sprint. Pace yourself, stay focused, and never stop learning.
Until next time, happy diving.